Hi, my name is Stephen Leonard. Today is December 8th, and I'll be doing a presentation on the gastric phase of the digestive system. The beginning of the gastric phase is stimulated by the arrival of food in the stomach. The gastric phase involves food as it enters the stomach, is broken down further, and then secreted through the pyloric sphincter as chyme to the duodenum of the small intestines. The stomach, as seen here in figure 21.6 from Silverthorne, secretes a number of acids and enzymes to aid in the digestion of proteins, primarily, but also some fats. The stomach concentrates on breaking down food, but does play a small role in the absorption of some lipid-soluble substances like alcohol and aspirin. But most importantly, it breaks down food into chyme, mixes it up, and dispenses it to the small intestines. We can divide the stomach into two sections, the upper and lower stomach. In the upper stomach, when food arrives, there is a reaction called receptive relaxation. This is the relaxing of the upper stomach to accept and make room for the incoming food until it can be passed on for digestion. This reflex is stimulated by the vagus nerve. In the lower stomach is where the digestion happens in this organ. Gastric pits line the inner walls, secreting acids and enzymes we mentioned before. There is also a mucus-producing endothelium which protects the lining of the stomach from eating itself, since it does create a very harsh and acidic environment. The gastric pits house a number of cells. In this figure from Silverthorne, we can see a list of these cells, what they produce, what they are stimulated by, and what effect those secretions have on the stomach. We'll concentrate on a few of those. G cells produce gastrin, which in turn stimulates other cells in the pits to produce gastric acid. One of these cells is the parietal cell. They're stimulated by the presence of gastrin, as well as histamine produced by other cells, and produce gastric acid as well as a substance called intrinsic factor, which aids in the absorption of vitamin B12. Chief cells are also important. They're stimulated by the secretion of the gastric acid and release pepsin and gastric lipase, which digest proteins and fats respectively. In this figure from Silverthorne, we can see the process by which gastric acid is released from a parietal cell. One thing not on the slide I wanted to mention, you could see it in the chart a few slides ago, is the secretion of somatostatin by D cells. This hormone inhibits gastric acid secretion and helps prevent an over-acidification of the stomach, as well as shut down the response once there's no longer food in the stomach to be digested. So we have seen how the cells of the gastric pit influence one another in a decently complicated web of hormones, acids, and enzyme secretions. But the initial signals have to come from somewhere. They come from both the vagus nerve and the enteric plexus. The vagus nerve stimulates both G and parietal cells as well as ECL cells. And the enteric plexus is stimulated through the enteric sensory nerve when food arrives in the stomach, and in turn stimulates G cells, both the vagus and enteric plexus do this, as well as chief cells. Together, the vagus and enteric plexus stimulate gastric digestion, which has factories inside the gastric pits. Another thing I'd like to discuss, the mucus-producing epithelium. It protects the rest of the stomach, and body from the harsh acidic environment created by gastric digestion. The epithelium is stimulated by the enteric plexus when the stomach becomes irritated, and it releases both mucus to create a protective lining as well as bicarbonate to help neutralize some of the acid being produced. These cells are normally very efficient and produce a pH of about 7 in the mucus layer between the acid and the epithelial cells. However, in some medical conditions such as Zollinger-Ellison syndrome, which results from an excessive gastrin production and therefore gastric acid production, the mucous endothelium can be damaged, resulting in the formation of some ulcers, which can be very uncomfortable or even detrimental to your health. But to end with, in a normally functioning stomach, both the vagus nerve and the enteric plexus initiate the response by the cells of the gastric pits to begin producing hormones, acids, and enzymes necessary to turn the food bolus into chyme and deliver it to the small intestines downstream. Thank you.